Hello YouTube, this is Dark Umbreon 1393 here with another deck profile for you guys. Just had a few extra stuff laying around from the Cosmo Blazer set, and saw the Hazy Flame cards and looked kind of interesting. I wanted to see, how they run and all that, so made a deck for it, and I actually got most of the stuff now. The only thing I really need to do is get the extra deck, the rest of the extra deck. Basically have it all made in real life already. It's actually running very well. Just wanted to post this video to show my deck list and see if anyone can make any suggestions on it, because I am getting a little stumped with some things. So yeah, it's a Hazy King or Hazy Beast, whatever kind of deck you want to call it. Just Hazy King, I guess. I have 42 cards right now, 21 monsters, just trying to maybe limit that a little bit, probably a little too much. So here it is, just comment and let me know if I can make any changes and adjustments to it. Alright, so for the Fire King stuff, basically 2 Garuniks and 2 Barong. That's basically, self-explanatory, pretty staple. Most people like to, some people like to run 3 Barong. I rather just have 2, because Garuniks isn't really your first option to really go to in this deck. Don't really need to get him out. Definitely just have 2 of him. You don't want 3 because too cloggy. You basically want to get him in the graveyard. That's basically what you want to do. You don't want to top deck him at all. It's like one of the worst cards in this deck to have in your hand. For the Hazy stuff, we have 3 Cerebrus, or Cerebus, whatever, I don't know how they want you to pronounce it, but 3 Cerebus. Yeah, just, you can, basically everything is revolved around 6-star monsters in this deck. Cerebrus, you can actually normal summon it, but his attack will become 1,000. That's if you really need to just normal summon a card if you don't have anything else to work with. But he has 200 defense, which is a target for Fire Dog, which we'll get into later, and also Rekindling, which we'll get into later. So yeah, there's Cerebrus, and then I like 3 Sphinx. Some people like to run 2, but you can get a lot of combos with Sphinx. What you do is you basically declare a card, monster, spell, or trap. You mill the top card of your deck, and if you call it right, then you get to special summon a fire-type monster from your hand or graveyard, which is excellent, especially if you are using Periton, which you have to discard a card and tribute it to the grave to special summon 2 fire monsters, which is like a rescue rabbit, if you will. And it's good to play a Sphinx, so you can also grab cards from your graveyard and special summon it, which is very, very good. I just added this about 2 minutes ago, 2 Hazy Flame Hippogriff. I basically just had 40 cards and didn't have the Hippogriff. I had 42 cards initially. I had Pot of Duality. I took that out. Didn't really work too well because you need to do a lot of special summoning in this deck, and Pot of Duality stops that. So, I mean, it can help in some ways if you really have a terrible top deck. It can help. So I took that out, and then as I was testing, sometimes I felt like I didn't have enough targets, enough Hazy Flame targets, or anything, so I just added the 2 Hippogriff, and it also has 200 defense, which is a target for Rekindling and Fire Dog. So it's basically just in there for an extra target. Don't know what else to do with it. Maybe take it out, or maybe, take these guys out and, and do something with it. But that's what, you guys are for, to suggest and help me out a little bit. 2 Periton. Don't run 3. Too cloggy. 2 is very good. It's a rescue rabbit, like I said before. It's very, very good. 3 Fire Dogs, basically just in there. When you destroy a card, you target a monster with 200 or less defense from your deck, which is a Cerebrus, and in this case a Hippogriff, as well as a Barong. So basically, all your plays can come from there as well. And now I have two Heretic Dragon of Tefnuit and a Taiho number 2. Your Tefnuit is basically like a Cyber Dragon. If your opponent controls a monster you control none, you can special summon it from your hand. And you can also use it, if you special summon it and have a Hazy monster in your hand, you contribute it, for your Hazy Flame monster, and get a Taiho number 2. There's a whole bunch of targets that you can use instead of Taiho number 2. Some people don't like it. I just use it because number one, I already had the card, and number two, it doesn't matter what their attack is. Some people told me to, use Watt Tail Dragon, but it doesn't really matter because Tefnuit is just gonna make its attack and defense 0, and you basically just want to use it for an Exceed material, so I don't see the point in using another card. You can use whatever you want. I already had Taiho number 2. It's a fire type, whatever. Put it in there. It works. And the last monster, I have Gores. Not really digging Gores too much. That's subject to change. If anything, the cards I'm looking to change is probably, Gores, the Tefnuit, Tyhone, and maybe Hippogriff. Maybe, work those cards around. Everything else is basically staple. Your Cerebrus, Sphinx, Fire Dog, Peritom, Barong, and Garunix. That's basically all, staple. The 2 Hippogriff probably should stay, but we'll see. So maybe get rid of Gores for maybe a Trag or something. Well, we'll see. For spells, 3 Onslaught of the Fire Kings and 3 Circle of the Fire Kings. That's pretty self-explanatory. Basically, your Fire King, if you have Onslaught, basically use it to summon Garunix. You can use it to summon Garunix, or you can use it for Barong, whatever. Or basically any card in this deck you can basically special summon with Onslaught, because it only calls fire types. So yeah, and 3 Hazy Pillar, and 2 Rekindling. Some people use the other way around. Actually, a lot of people. I've watched a lot of deck profiles, and a lot of them like 3 Rekindling and 2 Hazy Pillar. I like it the other way, 3 Hazy Pillar and 2 Rekindling. I just think Hazy Pillar is very, very necessary. I think it should be 3. And it really helps with the Exceed card, which I will show you later in a little bit. But Rekindling is also good, especially when people add like a Hippogriff to their deck, and you have Cerebrus, Barong, Hippogriff, Fire Dog. Those are a lot of targets for Rekindling, and you can get a lot of Exceeds or Synchros out if you add a Flame Veil Magician, which I really don't. I really don't want to use Synchros. I'd rather just stay with all the Exceeds. I think it's a waste. Unless you want to put in a Scrap Dragon or a Stardust Dragon. A lot of people have been doing that. For the staple spells, Monster Reborn, Dark Hole, Heavy. 3 MST. I like 3 MST because this is very, this deck doesn't work with a lot of back row. You need to get rid of a lot of back row stuff. So 3 MST are basically required. For traps, basically just 4 traps. Which is very good for your Sphinx. That's why a lot of people don't run a lot of traps. You run a lot of spells, so that you can call spells or monsters. It basically eliminates the traps when you use Sphinx effect. But 2 Torrential Tribute and 2 Call of the Haunted works very good with this. Works very, very, very good with this deck. Torrential, if you have a Cerebrus on the field and you Torrential it, because your opponent's, special summoning out the butt, Cerebrus does, his other effect is when it is destroyed and sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can search your deck for a Hazy card, which it could be Hazy Pillar, it could be any Hazy monster, and add it to your hand, which is very good. That's very good to have. And I have 2 Call of the Haunted, which basically is the same thing. If you have a Call of the Haunted set and you got maybe a Garunix on the field, or you got a Barong or Cerebrus or something like that on the field. They try to MST your Call of the Haunted. You activate it. I mean, not on the field, in the graveyard. If you have like a Garunix or a Cerebrus or something in the graveyard, they try to MST Call of the Haunted. You activate it, bring one of those cards back, and they destroy Call of the Haunted with MST. And then you get a free search with Cerebrus, or you'll be able to get your Garunix out on the field. That's why it's very good to use Periton's effect to discard Fire King Garunix to the graveyard. You don't really want him in your hand. It's kind of hard to normal summon it by tributing. So basically, to get him out, you basically have to use a Circle of the Fire Kings, or Circle of the Fire King, or Call of the Haunted, or something like that. Okay, side deck didn't really work on this. Don't even pay attention to this stuff. I just cards that I was maybe considering or something, but they don't really make sense. This really shouldn't even be there. I was running 2 Pot of Duality, but didn't really work out. Manticore, I was just thinking as an extra target, but he's kind of useless. Goka is a good card to maybe add if I'm going to get rid of like the Tefnuits and stuff like that. Maybe I'm going to think about adding him, but we'll see based on your comments and everything. For the extra deck, it's basically a pretty simple extra deck to make. You basically want at least 2 or 3 Basiltris. That's your main Exceed card. That's basically who you're going to go to. He's got a BLS effect. You can detach Exceed material and target a monster on your opponent's side of the field or graveyard, which is also very good, and banish it. And if you can have up to 5 materials on it, which is also very good to have. Why I like to have 3 Hazy Pillar, because its side effect is basically you can attach a material to an Exceed monster from your hand or on the field. So that's basically how you recycle, your Basiltris, and it gets effects basically if you have 3 or more materials. It gains 200 attack and defense. That effect isn't, a lot of people aren't too worried about that. They don't really care about attack points. Basically, it's, other effect. You don't want it to be targeted by cards. Basically, that's the point of Hazy Flames. They can't be targeted by card effects. Cards like Compulse or, Deep Prison, stuff like that won't work. And its last effect, if it has 5 material, it cannot be destroyed by card effects. So if you have 5 materials to it, it gains attack points. It can't be targeted, and it can't be destroyed by card effects, which is very broken. Very good card to have. Recommend having 3 of those in there. Very cheap to get, too. This deck isn't really that expensive to make. Everything is pretty cheap. All you need to do is maybe buy, if you don't have access to Garunix or Barongs or anything like that, buy at least like 2, Onslaught of the Fire King starter decks, 2 or 3. Depending on what you already have, and you'll get, your Garunix, Barong, Circle, Onslaught, Fire Dog even, it's in there. Hippogriffs do come in the Onslaught of the Fire King starter deck. You will get Call of the Haunteds and Rekindlings if you don't already have them. Basically everything else is pretty cheap to get. But onto the extra deck, 2 Photon Strike Bouncer, pretty obvious choice. You're basically just going to have a whole bunch of rank 6. Insector, Exabeetle, Gaia Dragon, Thunder Charger, Force Focus is very good to have. Swordbreaker I kind of just threw in there. It's a good card to have. You can get it very cheap, maybe $2-3. Just threw it in there. Still thinking about maybe adding Synchros to it or not. I'm not really sure about that. But for the rank 4s, you do have rank 4, options here with Fire Dog and Barong. So I just added, staple, like, rank 4s. You have Maestroke. Highly doubt that you'd probably get a Shockmaster out, but you never know, so it's there just in case. Utopia, Steel Swarm Roach, Black Ship of Corn, and Photon Pepperl Operative. It's very good to have. Black Ship of Corn is very good to have. It gets over Wind-Up Zenmei and stuff like that. Basically pretty staple. So, yeah, this is the deck profile. I hope you like it. Please comment and let me know, what, and give me, suggestions on what I should change. This deck does run very well. It, I tested it against a few meta, like, 6 Samurai and stuff like that, and it has, run very well. The only thing that I'm worried about changing is, with the Hippogriff, Tefnuit and Tyhone and Gores maybe, so if you guys can give me some suggestions, maybe, help me out a little bit, highly appreciate it. So, thanks for watching, comment, rate, subscribe, and yeah, look forward to making another deck profile for you guys, so stay tuned.